Hello, I'm Bill Labaris. I'm the editorial director of the IDG Custom Solutions Group. And I'm joined today by my special guest, Joe DeSantis. Now, Joe is the Vice President of Software Development at InterSystems. And we're going to be talking about InterSystems' vision for breakthrough applications. Joe, thank you very much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. No problem.
So let's start with an easy one, an obvious one. Joe, what is a breakthrough application, and how's it any different from what we've been developing for the last 40 years or so?
Well, traditionally, software has all been about automating processes and transaction systems within an organization. So if you look back over the past 20 or 30 years, everything's been about increasing efficiency of the transactional systems. But meanwhile, your users are home, they're using social networking, they're using mobile devices, and they've got a totally different perspective on what software can do than they come back in the office every day and they go, why am I using this old stuff? So what we really think is that if you want to survive in software development, you've got to be able to give your users in the enterprise the same kind of breakthrough experience they're having at home. And that means transforming the way that they go about their job. So your solution had better help them change the way they work, all for the better.
So in essence, you're saying the core driver of breakthrough applications in this instance is the tail wagging the dog, the customers, the consumers, and the people at home, as opposed to IT calling.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very different. So what are the characteristics or attributes of a breakthrough application?
Well, we think the three most important parts of a breakthrough application are driving mass personalization, unlocking the data, and driving intelligent action.
Mass personalization kind of sounds like jumbo shrimp to me. Is that a contradiction in terms? Or flesh that one out a little bit
Well,
for
it
us.
absolutely is a contradiction in terms, and it's intended to make you think a little differently. And the idea is that in a modern application, you've got all kinds of different data and information that are stored, and you have all kinds of different users. And the challenge is, how do you bring to the different types of users on their different types of devices the data they need, the way they want it, when they want it? And we believe the traditional approach of layers and layers of software really get in the way. And to really make this work, you need a very simple but scalable solution at the center that can take that data, transform it as it needs to be transformed, and send it out regardless of what type of form factor of user interface the user's using.
You're describing a very flexible and agile system, which is not something historically that IT systems have been.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So that's what makes it really different, I think. So you also talked about, in the characteristics of a breakthrough application, you talked about unlocking the data. What do you mean by unlocking the data? Well,
your traditional transactional systems and business intelligence solutions all are focused on numeric data that's traditionally stored as rows and columns. And if you actually look around your organization, you find that's a very small percentage. That might be 5% of the information in your organization. A lot of the real information in your organization is in notes and text and other unstructured forms of content. So if you're building an application and it can't tap into that unstructured content, you're really missing about 95% of the information your users could be making sense of.
Correct. And I think, too, if you think about the advent of the social web, and now maybe a lot of that information out there isn't so vital, but a lot of it is, and I guess you need a system that can get out there and recognize it, farm it, and then do something with it.
That's right.
And that's not a traditional system.
And you bring up a good point, because maybe some of that information isn't so interesting, but locked in there is some information that is. So how are you going to find that proverbial needle in that haystack? So you need tools and software that can help you do that.
You're not going to find it with the old systems.
Absolutely.
I think that's for sure. And the last attribute you mentioned, driving intelligent action. Talk about that, if you would.
Well, again, traditionally, this idea of business intelligence is something that's done after the fact, right? You set up a data warehouse, and it's kind of like a rear view mirror. After things have occurred, I can go look in there and I can learn what happened. But we believe that you really want to have that kind of insight at the point of action, so that the people who are actually using the system can make intelligent decisions. And to do that, you've got to achieve a few things. One is, you've got to be able to bring together that qualitative information and the quantitative information. In other words, the numbers and the unstructured data have to come together. You have to be able to do that analysis at real time or near real time, so that it's timely data, and you have to be able to embed that analysis into the actual applications the users are doing, rather than a report at the end of the month. And we think if you can bring those things together, you can actually get to the point where your organization and the people within it can actually make much better choices and improve what they're doing.
You got a lot of structured data, semi-structured data, unstructured data being sent out to all sorts of devices. So you've got to be hardware agnostic. You've got to be able to work with all this data. It's quite a chore.
That's right. That's right. And that's what we do here every day. So.
Well, talk about what you guys are doing here with respect to this brave new world of unstructured data and ubiquitous computing and consumerization and so forth. How has InterSystems technology developed to enable and to create breakthrough applications?
Well, our core technology we like to think of as one platform that you can build a breakthrough application on. And we think that there's three main characteristics that you need as a developer to build a breakthrough application. First is you've got to be able to manage the information. And that, as I said before, that information has to be more than just numbers and rows and columns. It has to be all the information in one place in a very robust and scalable way. Second of all, it's very important to be able to connect. Connectivity is no longer an optional thing. I mean, applications have to be connected either to other applications or they have to let you connect to your users, either within your organization or maybe out within a community. And third, you have to be able to provide insight. So you really need to handle storage, connectivity, and insight within one platform.
Mm-hmm. We hear a lot these days about the sort of like the coming demise of the so-called stack, which IT people understand, and the advent of a platform. Why do you refer to them more as a platform and less as a stack? And I guess what are the advantages?
Well, we think that the fact that our technology works together is a tremendous advantage for us and our customers. In a traditional stack, as the name implies, you're layering things up one on top of one another. And one of the problems with that approach is you may end up spending more of your creative time worrying about how to stack those things up and, more importantly, keep them stacked over time. Whereas when you use a holistic platform like InterSystems, we handle all the problems of keeping that working together, not only now, but over the long term. So you can focus more on delivering your solution and not on keeping your stack from falling over.
Mm-hmm. And obviously that holy grail of freeing up your IT time, or some of it, to focus on strategic projects and less on operational things, as you say, keeping the stack together and not falling over.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But nonetheless, your core technologies remain as products, correct?
Yes, we still talk about the components of our platform as separate products because in a lot of ways it's easy for people to understand that. So we still talk about Cache, which is our multidimensional database engine. We'll talk about Ensemble, which is our universal integration platform. And we talk about DeepSea, which is our active analytics engine. But it's really important to remember that they're designed from the outset to work together as one unit. They were not, hobbled together over time. And they really work very powerfully together.
Mm-hmm. And then they ultimately then provide the mass personalization, the unlocking of the data, and ultimately the analytics to make good business decisions, because that's really the reason why we're draining the swamp in the first place.
Absolutely. Right? You got it.
Well, Joe DeSantis, Vice President of Software Development at InterSystems, thank you very much for joining us today. Terrific information.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you very much for joining us as well. I'm Bill Labaris from the IDG Custom Solutions Group.